welcome to Global Beehive Talk. Today we have the pleasure of having Tony McCarrick, the digital strategist from Södertålje Municipality here. A second time visitor on the talk here. And also Lisa Hartikainen, branding and change from Nox Consulting. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Hans. I'm delighted to be back, and it's great to be here with Lisa as well.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa, for coming. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourselves and your role and what you're doing?
Of course, and thanks, Hans, for having us together. Super excited to be here. But I'm working at Nox Consulting as head of marketing, and I'm also co-founder of the initiative GoTech, which is all about kind of raise basic tech knowledge for adults in the society, everyone, which doesn't have tech background, so to say. And my background myself is primarily within human resources, and I've also been working with different types of branding throughout the years, but have been always in the tech industry throughout my career, and I've been very engaged in well how humans adapt to the digital era and digital tools and so on.
Excellent. And you, Tony, you're a second timer here, but there's a little bit of introduction to you as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Tony McCarrick, I'm a digital strategist at Södertålje Municipality, been there for more or less 3 years. I just must to mention one of the things that Lisa says. I'm just reading a book called Team Human. So by a guy called Douglas Ruchkoff. And it's about, I think, what Lisa's talking about here is how are we people going to work together to make something better? That's what it's all about, I think. So in Södertälje, anyway, we try to work with AI and digitalization, and we work a lot with ecosystems. And we have a very exciting future ahead. We have to be prepared. We have to see what's coming around the corner and try and meet it. And I'm looking forward to the talk with the both of you.
Thank you so much. Tony, I want to start off with you from the Södertälje Municipality. There's a recent report from OECD showing that Sweden is lagging behind in digital government. What are your views on this and experience relating to this digital governance?
Yeah, well, thank you for the question. And it's true, exactly. There's a number of reports, both from the OECD, but also from the European Commission, that Sweden is losing pace. And what the OECD is saying a lot is that we work a lot in silos, that we don't look at the whole picture. And my experience from working with these questions for the last 2 years enforces that. I think that we have a tendency in Sweden, but also in Europe, that we're looking backwards instead of forwards. I think we can see that in America, we can see that in England, we can see it in a lot of countries, that we're maybe looking in the wrong directions for inspiration. Where is innovation happening today? Yeah, maybe some of it is happening here, but some of it is happening in other parts of the world. And I think one of the ways forward is to try and work with people who are as different from yourself as possible. And that's why I think it's really exciting to work a bit with Lisa here. We're very different and we have different ideas, but that's how you can make change happen, I think, part of it.
But the report itself, for me, was quite surprising. I always thought that Sweden was in the forefront of digitalization and that we've been so for many, many years.
Yeah. Well, when I talked at the Internet Days 2017, I lifted this question actually. So a lot of people reacted just like you do. I didn't know that. And that's a result of that we look inwards instead of outwards. We have a picture of ourselves that is not actually relevant anymore. And I think we can see that in the way also Sweden has reacted to the pandemic, that we haven't really been great at taking input from the rest of the world. We wanted to find our own solutions when everybody knows that the pandemic is a global question. And the same way, AI and digitalization are global questions. It's not about finding answers that are just good for Sweden. We have to look at it in a global context. And that, I think, so I think we have to actually look at the bigger picture. What does the future look like? What do our citizens want? How do we meet them? What are the new ways of working? And how do we find the other ones, as they say in the book, Team Human? And maybe Lisa's one of the other ones.
Yeah. But looking at your daily work there in Södertälje municipality as a digital strategist, what evidence do you see in your daily work that Sweden is lagging behind? Are there any concrete things that you can highlight?
Yeah, well, I can say that in the few years that I've worked in Södertälje, we've had quite a lot of visitors from other municipalities, but also private companies. And they've come to us, and the question they often ask, nearly always ask, is, how do you guys work so fast, or girls, or whatever? And I usually say, how can you guys work so slowly? So I think that we're not great at leverage. We're good at talking about change. We're not good at living it. We're not good at scaling up. And once again, I think we have to be much better to look outwards. And whatever you know, I think in these questions, you just don't know enough. So you have to be humble in these types of questions. And that the answers, some of the answers, maybe we could find in Rwanda or Taiwan or somewhere else, and maybe some of them in the municipality beside us.
Moving to you, Lisa, because you have a very interesting background in managing marketing of branding people and also in change. Do you feel that we're being too comfortable in this whole digitalization, not taking it seriously enough?
I think that we are comfortable in one way, that we do think that it's but I mean, organizations in general do think that it's enough, to invest a lot of money in digital tools, but not invest in creating a mindset within the employees and the leaders in the company that can embrace the tools and that can be open for the technology to use. So I think that what a lot of companies in general have done in Sweden is that they put a lot of money in investing in automate manual task and creating better digital tools for their employees, but they have put a very, very little both money and time in actually giving the employees a chance to understand what this is all about, to understand technology, to understand the digital area and what it actually means for me as an individual. So in one way, yes, I think that we have become comfortable in doing in that kind of sense.
I think that's really, really interesting, because what we're saying here is that there's a huge investments, there's guidance, there's consultants. What is the missing link? Why are we in this situation? Tony?
Well, thank you for that very easy question. I think, Hans, of course, one, I don't know all the answers, of course, and I live in my own bubble, of course. But I think the important thing is to understand that there are lots of different answers to this question. And some of them I've mentioned, I think, that we look inwards instead of outwards, that we don't embrace what's happening in the global context, that we don't, as Lisa said here, I think that's it's very true what she says. We're pretty good at getting money to invest in technology, But we don't seem to understand that we have to work with the human capital, because it's getting the technology and the people together. That's where you can really make the big change. So we're putting a lot of energy into one of the parts, but not into the other parts. And it's the synergies those between them that would make the big difference. So we have to be more self-critical. I think we should all ask ourselves, is the stuff that I'm doing, is it relevant, or have I lost the ball? I think organizations have to do that. I think our political leaders have to step forward and not only just talk about change in digitalization, but also live the change. There's a big difference about talking about these things and actually making a difference. I think that's a big question ahead.
Moving on to you, Lisa, again. I mean, what would you say to leaders today, both the digital leaders like Tony McCarrick or to political leaders, how to overcome this challenge of digitalization?
I do think that we need to include everyone in this journey. I mean, talking both about digitalization and innovation, that has happened too much in I think one room, in the boardroom or in the innovation team and so on. I think that we need to, or leaders need to include the whole organization in this change, and with that said, working with the employees' mindset, working with creating a curiosity for technology within the organization, and I'm usually talking about, or we're usually talking about what we call tech mindset, which is further development of what Carol Dweck talks about. She talks about growth mindset, which means that you're not born with capabilities and knowledge. You're all the time able to develop your skills, and a tech mindset is all about that developing your skills within tech and being curious about technology and the changes that it actually means to us. And I think that it's critical for everyone in the society to develop a tech mindset, and we need to have our leaders in forefront to help us, or to help employees and organizations to actually get the chance to develop it. And I think it's a lot about competence development. It's all about giving employees a chance to actually discover technology, to try programming, to read or get workshops about AI, for example, because that is the huge forces that changes our society. I think that everyone needs some kind of basic understanding of technology to kind of remove this barrier of being afraid of it. I think it was Steve Jobs who said that I think everyone in this country should learn how to program a computer because it teaches you how to think, and that is something that we talk a lot about in the initiative Go Tech that we drive. That understanding programming or trying programming doesn't mean that you should become a programmer. It means that you get the chance to see and to handle and to work with the smallest component of all digitalization, which is code. And what it does when you have the opportunity to handle it or try it is that you see that it's not for just the smartest or the most best programmers to handle. It's for everyone to kind of to see and to understand, and that makes you feel confident. I mean, I remember when I tried code for the first time, I was like, gosh, I'm within human resources. Why should I and how should I? I'm not capable of that. And then realizing that, okay, well, it's just about it gives a lot of self-confidence, and I think that self-confidence is the main ingredients to learn more, to get a tech mindset, to be able to go from afraid to curious. So and that is one way. Try programming is very, very concrete, so that is why I'm super pro for that. But I mean, there's so many ways where we can just fill our or the leaders can fill their employees with self-confidence when it comes to technology, which and next step will create a curiosity and interest and engagement around it, I think.
I mean, I think that it's such a really interesting perspective on this, saying that the technology mindset and digital mindset itself is so important to grasp it. It's not really about technology, about the mindset competence itself. But how do we help leaders to create this mindset, to create this culture of curiosity? Tony, do you have any?
If I can just give a reply for what Lisa said there, another way of saying the same thing more or less is, do we really understand our society today? And do we understand what is probably coming around the corner very, very quickly? Do we understand how algorithms and parts of AI affect our life today? We've seen now with President Trump, he's been thrown out of social media. How did we allow it to go so far? I think we have to ask that type of questions. And I think we let things go too far because we have not done what Lisa is saying here, that we have to try and increase our competency over the whole organization. And I think that organizations that are learning organizations, they are going to do very well ahead. Those that are not, those organizations that are built on hierarchies, that the boss knows everything and decides everything, those organizations are going to be have an abrupt wake-up call in the quite near future, because they won't be relevant and they won't be able to supply what the citizens demand of them. That's my opinion anyway.
I totally agree.
I mean, I think that's a really interesting conclusion. This and that it's about the governance and organization and leadership in the end that is the bottleneck for the digitalization or this transformation ongoing. How would you view the future? I mean, where would you like Sweden to be in 5 or 10 years?
Great question. Well, if I can just reflect just to look at some of our neighboring countries, Finland had a great concept where they made a digital workshop or a digital course for AI. And I think they got 150,000 people in Finland to go on the course. We tried to do that in Sweden, but we didn't get the volumes up. So somewhere along the line, Finland seems to have understood something that we don't understand. And I think those countries that really take concepts that where the politicians actually understand the value ahead, they are going to make a difference. So I think our future depends on, can we increase our competency around what the world looks like now and what the world looks like ahead. So a lot is dependent on that. And are we courageous enough to take the next steps? I think that's a big question ahead.
And Lisa, looking at the more leadership style there, or leadership perspective, where do you think Sweden should be in 5 years' time?
Well, I think when talking about digitalization and leadership, we need to remember that we have lived thousands of years in the reality that the one who knows the most is the one who should be the leader, and the one who's most experienced and senior is the one who's most suitable. And today we have a reality where the younger generation are more used to digital tools. They are born in a digital era, so they know more than their parents, than their teachers, and that's also the same in organizations. We do have, usually leaders are the most senior persons, but they don't know the most. So I think we have to, I would like to see that leaders become more humble and more brave about their own competence, because one reason of why we are where we are in Sweden when it comes to digitalization, I think is that we're not we are not brave enough to tell we do not know, and we are too scared to kind of admit now, because now we have been talking about this digitalization for 10, 20 years, and we have been talking about AI and machine learning, and what happens is that we get everyone in some kind of bubble where no one are brave enough to actually tell that they don't have a clue what we're talking about. So I would like to see more brave leaders who actually can raise a hand and say that we would like to invest in AI, but I have no idea of what it is all about. Or also leaders who realize that innovation is not happening in a team. Innovation is happening in a company when everyone and every employee is ready for it. So more humbleness and more openness is what I'm looking forward to seeing in leadership in Sweden. And I hope that we are on our way, but it takes time to change.
Yeah, I totally agree with that conclusion. And we are heading to the end of this talk. And I think that you summarized it quite well, that the main obstacles for digitalization in this area is lack of almost confidence or lack of bravery and looking from this digitalization from different perspectives, willingness to learn and adapt to new circumstances. I think that is one of the great conclusions from this talk, and something I hope that the viewers will actually recognize. I want to thank you so much for participating in this Global Beehive Talk. It's been a pleasure having you here, and I think that you have contributed with great perspective on this question, and I hope that we will continue to look into why Sweden is lagging behind in this area. So thank you so much for participating.
Thank you, Hans, and thank you, Lisa. Really enjoyed this.
Thank you, Tony.
This is the conclusion of this podcast, but don't be afraid to subscribe to the channel, and there are more podcasts there with Tony McCarrick, for example. And thank you so much for viewing. Thank you.